Focus on the two hearings in question, but we do have one brief introduction that we're going to make tonight because he relates both to the Council and the Planning Commission. And I'll call on Ms. Stacy Reichler, our Director of Human Resources, to come forward at the present time. Well, if you can.
Good evening, everyone. The town is pleased to report that our code compliance official began work with the town of Abingdon on September 21st. Mr. Jason Boswell is a graduate of Patrick Henry High School. He holds a bachelor's degree from Emory and Henry College, and he is a longtime resident of the town of Abingdon. We know that he's going to be a huge asset for the town, so I'd like you to join me in welcoming Jason Boswell.
Mr. Boswell, we welcome you aboard with the town. I've already heard good things about the services you're providing. Code enforcement is a key component of maintaining a high quality of life in our community. Glad to have you on board and hope things will go well. Let us know if we can be of any assistance to you. All righty, thank you. At this time, I will turn this portion of the meeting over to Mr. Austin, who is Chair of the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the Mayor has told you tonight, we have two matters that are actually here for public hearing tonight. The first is proposed rezoning, and the second public hearing will be on the special use permit for the property that is being considered for rezoning purposes. As I've already said, I have a sign-up sheet. I apologize. Some of the names may be a little difficult for me to read, but when I read your name or attempt to read your name, please feel free to come up and use one of the microphones on either side of the room. When you come up to the microphone, we'll ask that you give your full name, please, and your physical address, as this meeting is being recorded, and we would like to have and need to have that for our use at that time. The process that the Planning Commission will use tonight, first of all, I will have Mr. Matthew Johnson, who is our planner, come forward and to generally speak about what the proposals are that are here for public hearing tonight. He will review those with the Planning Commission. He will talk about how those matters have already been reviewed by the staff and make that presentation at that time. After that is completed, we will then ask for public comment, and that's when I will endeavor to call the names that I have listed here on the sign-up sheet. We usually do not have joint meetings. I will point that out to you. We felt that it's a matter of convenience because we knew a lot of people were interested in the issue that was coming forward, both the town council and the planning commission, that it would be useful to have a joint meeting rather than inconveniencing you for two meetings. I would also like to point out to you that the Planning Commission simply makes recommendations to the town council. The Planning Commission has no authority regarding the rezoning or the special use permits. The Planning Commission will make recommendations to the town council, and the final decisions all lie within the discretion of the town council. Having said that, Mr. Schuman, I'd like to recognize you, please, for a moment.
Yes, I wanted to let everybody know that I have in this matter a conflict of interest. I can't even discuss or vote on matters involving the Food City KVAT. The nature of my conflict is that I'm a employee of a company called HealthSmart. HealthSmart administers workers' compensation liability claims for Food City KVAT, and as such, that would conclude me participating in voting on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Schuman. Again, we welcome you to the meeting tonight. We encourage your participation in the meeting. There will be various opportunities for you to address the commission members tonight, and your comments are very important to us and to the decisions that will be made here tonight. The first proposal that we have tonight is a public hearing, the proposed rezoning filed by SEMA Corporation. They've submitted a request to rezone approximately 31 acres, plus or minus, located near 440 Green Spring Road, including all portions of tax map numbers 021-5-5, 021-1-5B, and 105-A-39. request is to rezone this property from AFOS, which is Agricultural, Forestal, and Open Space District, to B2, prepare for a proposed commercial development. Plans that have been presented include greater than 50,000 square feet of retail space, and as a result of that, because of the size, the applicant is also required, pursuant to Section 18-9-4 of the Code of the Town of Abingdon, to request an additional special use permit, and that will be the second public hearing that will be conducted tonight. This unique project is twofold, including a commercial development as well as approximately 40 acres, which is proposed to be acquired by the Town of Abingdon for baseball, soccer sports complex. The site plans and copies of the proposal are available for review. Having said that, I would ask Mr. Matthew Johnson, who is Director of Planning for the Town of Abingdon, to come forth and give us the overview of the project.
Good evening, council members, planning commission members. I'm going to give a brief review of some of the information that you've already heard. And I'll skip through some of this because Mr. Austin has done a fantastic job of summarizing that. This information that's on this slide that you can see before you is exactly the same information. We have received a request for rezoning for 440 Green Spring Road. Tax map numbers are listed. It's about 32 or 3 acres, plus or minus. The applicant has requested a rezoning from agricultural to a business commercial district. The 50,000 square foot retail floor space triggers the need for the special use permit, and we do have 2 hearings this evening. Each of those will be separate. As you can see in the photograph that is on the screen, the area that is in question this evening is outlined in red or highlighted in red. The conceptual site plan that has been provided, and again I say it's very, very stressed conceptual because at this time it's not set in stone, does include a component off to the east side there that is a sports complex. That particular component of the conceptual site plan is not the focus of tonight's meeting. The rezoning is only for the area that I have zoomed in on here that contains the retail component and the commercial district. And I wanted to sort of highlight special use permit. The special use permit may have conditions that are added to it. The applicant has also given us some, in this case, a couple of conditions that they would like to go ahead and try to address with both the Planning Commission and the Council. No other way to do this other than read them into the minutes for you, so please bear with me. For consideration on the special use permit, with respect to utilities, all new utility lines, including but not limited to electric, telephone, and cable, that are situated along the front facings of the building shall be placed underground, with the exception of electric power lines in excess of 100 amp 3As, 2500 kilovolt, which may be placed above ground. I know you can't read that. Building facades. This is one that is fairly important. Buildings shall be designed and constructed to avoid lengthy, unbroken facades with no scale detailing or fenestration. Examples of architectural details include recessed or articulated wall surfaces, columns and beams, windows and other openings that reflect and enhance the character and style of the building and define the roof lines. The use of sloped roofs in combination with flat roofs may be used to vary the building profile and to provide equipment and screening. Exterior building materials that are prohibited when visible from the designated roadway or budding residential development include corrugated metal siding, vinyl siding, and unpainted concrete block. Minimum of 50% of the first floor, front and side exterior building elevation, excluding glass, that are visible from the public right-of-way shall be comprised of the following materials: natural clay brick and or natural quarried stone products. Secondary facade materials which may be used for up to 40% on exterior building walls include hard coat stucco, concrete materials, not limited to architectural split face block, tilt-up concrete or precast concrete. Synthetic stucco, fiber cement siding, or other materials as approved by the town planning department or their designee. Painted smooth face concrete block, wood, architectural metal, and other materials differing from those used as primary and secondary materials may be utilized, but not to exceed 10%. That's a lot of words, but basically it speaks to the design of the buildings in the complex. Number 3, service loading equipment storage area. So service areas including storage special equipment, maintenance, loading areas would be screened to minimize visibility from public right-of-way. Refuse collection areas will be located in the side or rear yard and be screened to minimize visibility. Screening shall incorporate same architectural elements of the building and be constructed with the same building materials as a principal structure, with wooden gates being permitted for the enclosure. Signage is a large component of any retail or commercial development. They have asked for a condition that says that the commercial development will be governed by a comprehensive signage plan, which be detailed in a separate document to be provided to the town and reviewed by the planning commission in the future. Lighting, exterior lighting shall not emit any light above a horizontal plane. So there are a lot of concerns about lighting, light pollution, light leaking up. The maximum height of lights, and this is in our code actually, currently would not be located above 24 feet. They have also agreed to complete an environmental study, a phase 1 environmental site study for the entire site, as well as an archaeological study. We understand that there could be some significance to that particular location. They have, prior to grading or earthwork on the property, they have agreed to provide an archaeological phase 1 assessment as described by the Department of Historical Resources to the Planning Commission. And finally, they have also agreed to come back before the Planning Commission for each component of this plan. So not only the main retail space, but also any out parcels that they would convey to others, to bring that back to the Planning Commission for a certificate of appropriateness. And essentially what that would do is give the Planning Commission the ability to review the request and make sure that it is appropriate with the architecture of the town. That is what I have. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them at this time.
Commission, have any questions?
Mr. Johnson, I would just ask, point out for the folks who are here, on
That is correct, and I'll go back to the site plan, if you will. While there are 2 components of the plan that you see before you, the retail as well as the ball fields, we are not subdividing that property at this time. There are 2 components, but they're not being subdivided right now.
We have to do something that if the parcels were sold off at a later date, we have to come back with this.
That is absolutely correct.
I'm sorry, we can't hear in the back. I guess this is the background noise, and we couldn't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Louder?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
I
right.
was proffering the question to Mr. Johnson that if any of these businesses that are shown on the concept were to be sold off, there would have to be a separate petition or application for a subdivision of the property. That is not before us tonight with this application. And I just wanted to clarify that so that the folks out there knew that we are not doing a subdivision of this property.
That's correct. If there are no further questions for me, I believe that the applicant has a representative here this evening.
Let me ask one question
Sure.
concerning the access to the property. Could you address that just briefly for us, please?
If you're speaking about the proposed road realignments,
Yes.
if you don't mind, I'd just ask Mr. Dew, our town engineer, to address that for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd be glad to address that. Along with this development, as this development moves forward, aside from the rezoning request, there would be a traffic impact analysis required for a development this size, and it would identify existing traffic conditions, generate estimates of traffic generated by this development, and make recommendations on any kind of infrastructure improvements needed, specifically about Green Springs Road. And project that we've had interest in for some time now was to realign Green Spring Road to tie into Cummings Street up at Cook Street, at the signalized intersection of Cook Street. So that would be the likely scenario. The traffic impact analysis would identify if that's adequate to handle the proposed traffic from this development.
Commissioners have any questions regarding that? Thank you, Mr. Gill. All right, at this time, I'd like to call the public hearing to be open for public comment. I understand that the landowner and/or the developer have a representative present and would like to make a presentation. I'll call upon Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jeff Johnson. I'm the attorney for SEMA Corporation. For those of you that don't know, SEMA Corporation is an affiliated company of Paramount Companies, which is James Brown. We own the property. I think Mr. Alston and Mr. Johnson have done an exceptional job tonight in laying out what is before the commission and the council respectively. The only thing for the rezoning is the front 33 acres. That is what we're requesting this evening. Any proposed development of ball fields, anything of that nature, I think has been alluded to is secondary and will come later. We are making this application as an accommodation for the developer or the agents of the developer, which is Marathon Realty. More than happy to answer any questions relative to the land, but would defer any development questions to Marathon. Be more than happy to answer anything you may have at this time.
Are there any questions by the commission?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. All right. Is there anyone else that has, as a component, that would like to come forward and make any presentation? If not, I will begin going down the list. Yes, sir. Please.
Good evening, Stephen Spangler, representative of Marathon Realty Company, or Corporation, excuse me. Just wanted to reiterate the fact that I think the presentation of our application has been succinct, but the piece of property that we are asking to be rezoned tonight is only 33 acres of the 70 acres that we have under contract. Effectively, there's a 40-acre buffer between that property and the Creeper Trail that we are reserving for future development, potentially for the ballpark. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, sir. All right, as I said, I'll begin the endeavor of reading names here. We'll start first is Mr. Joe Levine. They're not working. Okay. We've just been told the side microphones are not working, so we're going to ask you to come up to the podium here. This microphone is working so that you can hear it back.
Okay, good evening, Planning Commission member. Pointing to the, whoops, can we go back to that last picture that was just there for a minute? Yeah, no, the one of the oversight, there you go. Just like to point out, first, Joe Levine. Full name is Joseph Levine, please call me Joe. And the address is 350 Green Spring Road. Looking at the overview there, I would like to point out as we go through that the building facades issue that Matthew talked about, and the fact that the trash and other things will be on the back side of the building, please remember when you look at that, the backside of the building is what my pictures will show, is what the Creeper Trail will be saying. Do we now go to the pictures I've got? And I apologize to the Planning Commission members because you can't see the screen. Oh, okay, good. All right. This is a blow-up of the future use map from the comprehensive plan. Thank you. And I blew it up just to make it a little clearer on a couple things that don't really show up on the other ones, which are a different scale. Is that the area we're talking about is, for those people who are not familiar with the project, is this, it's lost in the screen. We're basically in this area that everybody's looking at for this 33 acres to be rezoned. And again, just quickly, I-81 is here, Abingdon is here. As your line of reference, this is a picture from the parking lot at the entrance to the Creeper Trail. And you can see the engine to the left and the trestle 1 to the right. If you get a little closer to trestle 1, standing at about this point on the trail, if you look right, you'll see a mound basically right here. It is visible from the Creeper Trail. I understand the plans are to take the top 50 feet off of that hill. That's where the will be sitting. So,
could you repeat that into the microphone?
yes, I said if you look at that mound that I was pointing to, I understand the plans are to take the top 50 feet off of that mound, level it out, and that's where this complex, the 50,000 square foot plus building will be located. It more than likely will remain visible from the Creeper Trail. So I'd be very concerned about the anything on the back side of that building. It's a situation where we don't only have a facade on the road side, we've got a visual concern from the back side also. If you walk across the bridge, you get to the largest white oak on the trail. I think everybody probably knows where it is. So if we look out from there, you can see across to the hill also. So that will still be visible across the trestle and into the bridge, or into the trail. I know we're not talking about the ballparks today, but I do want to point out this hotel. I believe the hotel probably falls in the rezoned land. That hotel, if my math's right, I look at the size of those soccer fields, probably about 150 yards from the Creeper Trail at that point. That's a half mile down the trail. And put things in perspective, if you look at the tree line, the hotel will be about halfway between the trail and that tree line. So I think we do have something that is visible to the town. I'm new to the area, I have to say. I have heard some history of the area. One of the things I heard, Mr. Mayor, is that in 2009, you were very instrumental in keeping Walmart out of the Abingdon town limits. And I understand on September the 4th, the Bristol area Carrier quoted you as saying, "This is a victory for Abingdon and for other towns seeking to control growth." My wife and I started looking for a place to retire about 4 years ago. I'll be retiring in 85 more days. We looked for about 3 years. And, Abingdon was listed in best places to retire. Listed as best small towns in America. Also, part of the reason to come back here, my wife was born in Saltville and raised in Lake Spring, but it's been 50 years since we've been in Southwest Virginia. We're planning to come back. We looked for about 3 years before we bought the house on Green Spring Road. And, one of the things that we really learned is we love the Creeper Trail. We like the bargain. We think it's a great town. The ambiance of the town is fantastic. Nice small restaurants to walk to. You have the Martha Washington Inn. And the comment we kept hearing is the best thing that ever happened to Abingdon is Exit 7. It kept the growth out of Abingdon. Yesterday, during an interview with WCYB-TV for the 6 o'clock news, Steve was quoted saying, "This will bring more retail to Abingdon that will make Abingdon make it more competitive with adjacent communities." I'm just asking, what is it that has changed since the 2007 comprehensive plan, the 2013 comprehensive plan, which showed future use of this land as agricultural? The things that this town has done for the past 20 years to make it the great place that I wanted to move to, or my wife wanted to move to. And the question facing, I think, this planning commission today and in the future will be, will Abingdon remain the town the citizens and council have built, or will the planning committee let it become another Exit 7? Thank you.
Whoa.
Next on our list, looks like the lawyer's writing here, Barry Proctor. It's not often I get to limit a lawyer to 3 minutes.
I'm his wife, and I'm going to waive my 3 minutes to him. Or give my minutes to him.
It's odd to be in a room with this many people and nobody's gotten shot, so I hope. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, my name is Barry Proctor. I live at 927 Woodlawn Terrace in the Morningside subdivision, an older subdivision on the east end of town. My wife Ann and I moved here in 1982. It was our intention to stay a couple of years. 5 kids later, we're still here. And during that time, the Creeper Trail was a place that I visited frequently. I've ridden my bicycle, I've walked the dogs, I've walked the kids, hundreds of miles on that trail. And it has probably been the spiritual place, other than my church congregation, that is the closest to me. And if you take a car ride from exit 19 and go down to the first exit in Tennessee at exit 74, you're going to find every big box retailer that you can imagine. If you pull off at any of those, you can buy a gun, you can buy things at Targets. There's all of that commercial development within a 20-minute drive of here. But the one thing you will not find at any of those places is anything that comes close to the Virginia Creeper Trail. That is a unique gift that has been in this community, and it came with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Rails to Trails projects weren't real popular in 1982 when I came here. There was a lot of opposition from adjacent landowners as what was going to happen in that. But I think the wisdom of those, including Congressman Boucher, that worked that through for decades to make that trail into what it is today have been proven right. And what falls to us now is the stewardship of that trail and the preservation of it for the generations to come. Now, I think that Mr. Smith and Mr. Brown are excellent corporate neighbors in this community. They do a lot for this community. Mr. Brown gives a second chance to a lot of my clients who couldn't find a job with a felony conviction anywhere else. And Mr. Smith donates money and makes it easy for us to go and afford a ticket at the Barter Theater, but they can look out for themselves. The Creeper Trail depends upon your vigilance to make sure that that trail is protected. Food City will get its stores out. Mr. Brown will continue to work in his business. But the question is, do we want those two side by side with what's just been graphically shown is an outcome to that? Well, it's been said, well, there'll be tax dollars, there'll be new jobs. I don't understand the feasibility of that, moving the store across the street. Well, maybe it'll be a better store across the street. putting in hotels, and we can't keep the hotels that we have now except for race weekends. No problem keeping up those. We've got a plethora of them at exit 14 and exit 19 and exit 17. Is that going to be an economic boom? A bunch of minimum wage jobs available from that? What's been described by Mr. Johnson here with all of the materials and all of the ins and outs, it's been described in that as a strip mall. And this is going into an area that is notorious for failed businesses at that intersection. There's been 2 gas stations that have gone out of business, one on one side of the interstate, one on the other side of the interstate. Stuckey's went long ago. Nobody came back in to place that. Look at how many empty storefronts you have up in the Kmart area. The former Italian restaurant, the Tuscan, is for sale. How many businesses have come and gone in that? And somehow or another, we think that the feasible thing, the best thing to do, is to jeopardize the one treasure that we know we have and is part of the economic engine of this community by putting something in front of it that's going to obviously detract half a mile out from what we have right now. And take that away from this community and from the folks who will come along after us. Now that's what's been asked. I'm not against commerce. I'm not against things expanding. But you have to balance all of that out. And you have to say, what is unique? And from my Christian perspective, what has God given to us that we now have an obligation to preserve and not to sacrifice to commercial interests? And commercial interest that in my mind, I learned about this at 9 o'clock last night. And that's my second complaint about how this has been handled. I've heard some phrases used that just strike terror in citizens. Stuff like, we've worked a long time under the radar on this one. It's a done deal before the first word from the public is mentioned. The first notice for this was published on the 23rd of September. The second one was a week ago, on the 30th of September. Now, I don't know how long y'all worked on this, but I just got this 61-page packet this afternoon, and I haven't had time to hardly digest it at all. And yet the public says, okay, we've worked on it under the radar for as long as we want to work on it. Now here's your chance to respond. Here's your 24 hours. And the folks, I bet you that the ones who are in here heard about this on the CYB broadcast, and I give those folks a round of applause for alerting the community of what's going on. And given the significance of the creeper trail in here, somebody should have been out there spreading the word among the community that this treasure, right or wrong, is going to be impacted by what we propose doing, and given more than 24 hours to figure out how to respond to that. I'm going to leave the room so that some of these other folks have got a seat out here that can come in, whatever their opinions may be. I thank you for your time, and I ask that when you deliberate on this, that either you give more time for the community to respond, or if it's taken up tonight, that this rezoning not be recommended and not approved by the council. Thank you.
Janet Brewer.
Follow that.
Don't have you up here, please. Thank
I
you.
only have one question instead of comments. I am not clear. Okay, I'm not clear on this slide, on this picture here, where I see a fuzzy green thing to the, in the upper right corner. Is that the creeper trail? Is the creeper trail farther over? Can somebody show me?
This is the creeper trail.
Oh. And where does it start on Green Springs Road?
About, so it's that. It goes left across here.
Yeah, come down to here. Come down to here. The first pictures I showed were from the trestle looking down here, the second side of the trestle looking here, and then the half mile coming around, and then the Cooper Trail is coming right along.
And John, the Cook Street extension, I guess you call it, will come down the hill from Kmart and go through the light, and then come, and then be cut through that hillside and over?
If you went to the map here, the connection up to Cumming Street at Cook is right here. That's the signalized intersection right now. And the realigned Green Springs Road would come down here and go behind these properties.
Then what happens to the little piece of Green Springs Road that now goes up to Cummings?
There'll be a part of it retained to access properties.
The street, okay.
Properties like the Plummer Street, that area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. James and/or Cindy Patterson.
Mr. Austin, I'm Mike Bragg, attorney from here in Abingdon, and I represent Jim and Cindy. What I would like to say to the commission and to the council is to concur with Mr. Proctor is that we seem to be in a lot of hurry to get something done. And it is apparent from looking at the paperwork, as Mr. Proctor has recognized, that there's a lot of folks been doing a lot of work in this building and other places getting ready for this proposal, and very short time was given to the public to respond. And it would appear that there is that this train is not ready to leave the station. The Pattersons, I will say right now, are still looking for answers to questions and for explanations to know what their position is with regard to this. It is going to impact them. Jim and Cindy live at 410 Green Springs Road. They operate a bed and breakfast and have a horse farm. From all appearances, it would seem that this project would destroy their home and their business. The bed and breakfast would be heavily impacted, and their horse farm would be heavily impacted. They are in the historic district, and this is on the edge of the historic district, but for some reason we seem to be in a hurry. And while these folks are not my clients, I would speak for the folks that are outside. We are in a hurry. This is a public hearing. As a public hearing, I think that everyone in the public who is impacted by this and who wants to participate in the public hearing should be given the opportunity to do so. Not coming in and out as people finish and leave and make room. I understand the fire marshal's position. That's not the public's fault. That is the town's responsibility. If you're going to have a public hearing on an issue like this, you must provide the proper place to allow the public to be here to do it. Now, saying that, I would like to just point a few things that are of concern that I think need to be addressed and need to be addressed before any rezoning. One, we are told that a traffic impact analysis would be required in the future, and we don't know what that's going to require. Seems like that's something you do first. Before this project and rezoning is done, or the project is approved, the rezoning is done, which is a fait accompli, then we suggest that those traffic analysis should be completed and provided to the Planning Commission and to the Council in detail, and with the public with opportunity to study it. The public to have opportunity to have, if they wish, their own experts analyze the data and present contrary views if that is the if the evidence points that way. not to say, approve the rezoning, and it could be taken up later. Once something is rezoned, it's rezoned. To take it back to what it was before, you would have to rezone it back. How that would be accomplished, I don't know. The Patterson's property is also impacted because if there is this proposed relocation of Green Springs Road, it will go through a part of their property. Yeah, and there have been discussions with Mr. Spangler, and they're being undertaken in good faith on both sides. But that is something that has not been done yet. We want to know, is it Food City that wants to replace this road, to move this road, or is it the town council that is going to replace the road? Has the town of Abingdon budgeted acquisition costs for the moving of the road? Has the town council budgeted construction costs for construction of the road? We believe those are things that needs to be addressed before the issue of the rezoning is taken into consideration. We also believe that it is something that the public is entitled to know before the town of Abingdon, through this council, undertakes to consider a rezoning of this property. The public is entitled to know, is there a deal between the landowner, KVAT, or whoever, and the town of Abingdon with regard to these ball fields? Is there a contract in place? Is there a proposal in place? Is there something there? Because from a public standpoint, that goes to your ability to consider this rezoning. Now, if the town is considering rezone it because you're going to get some land and some ballparks out of it, that may be a factor and that might be appropriate. But the public, I believe, is entitled to know. If it's a hope that you might get them, then the public is entitled to know that, to know whether you should go forward with a rezoning that might have that as a consideration, but may not ever happen. The other thing that we would ask you to consider and say that before undertaking this is that, again, my client's, the Patterson's property, is in the historic district. And that's a very important part of the town of Abingdon. It's significant. You lose the historic district, you lose a lot in this town. It may not be quite on par with the Creeper Trail, but it is very close to it in terms of the significance of the character and the identity of the town of Abingdon. Now, has any study been made of the impact of this proposed development on the historic district? Starting right there, going past the Patterson's property, which is in the historic district. I would respectfully suggest that a detailed analysis and study by appropriate parties who are experts in that area should be undertaken and considered by the town, both at the planning commission level and the town council, before you take any action. That should be a requirement. The final thing I would ask of the entities is this, is that in part of the documentation that's been provided in the application, there is notations on the plans that the developer's rights would be conditioned, and I'm paraphrasing it, upon them acquiring any additional land or easements to carry out the plans. And we are asking that you require that prior to any granting of the rezoning. Once it's rezoned, it's rezoned. If they don't acquire it, for example, if they don't acquire the property to move the road, then it's going to be up to the town to do the acquisition out of the public funds. So we ask for you to consider that. So we thank you for your consideration. We know that you want to take everyone's interest at heart. And again, we're not here speaking against the project. We're speaking against granting it right now. We don't have the information that is necessary to formulate our response to it. And I don't think anyone can, and certainly the council or the planning commission could not at this point. Thank you.
Next I have Ann Proctor. Ann, do you have comments that you'd like to add?
Do I still get my 3 minutes?
You get your 3 minutes, absolutely. We've run over a couple of times here, and so what I'll do is I'll just sort of do that when we're getting close to the time. We're having one time. Give us your name and address, please.
My name's Ann Pratt Proctor, 927 Woodlawn Terrace, Abingdon, Virginia. I'll let it be known I'm from Colorado. And when we first moved here, my husband agreed and tried to convince me that these mountains were like the Rocky Mountains. That didn't fly, but we stayed more than 4 years. It's been closer to 34 years. And we've raised our children here, as Barry was saying, but one of the reasons, can you still hear me? It's the, I don't know.
Stand in front of it.
Stand in front of it? Okay, sorry. One of the reasons why he convinced me to live here is because I could see the mountains, even if they were rolling mountains versus Rocky Mountains. And it sounds like this proposal, from what we've heard, like Barry said, in the last 24 hours, is that at least from the Creeper Trail and quite a bit of other area, when you look out, it is going to take a lot of that view away. And that's what part of the historic Abingdon and walking through Abingdon has been able to maintain. It doesn't make it historic, Abingdon, if you keep on building new buildings rather than renovating the old buildings. And he didn't mention it, but of course when there's other buildings that are coming in, there's also going to be more crime, more shoplifting. I don't know about the gun part of it and a lot of the other crimes, but there's going to be an increase in that as well, I'm sure. So I concur with the other gentleman that it would be nice to have some more information on how this would impact our area from what is being proposed, for at least for the acreage and the buildings that are being proposed being built now. Another, I guess, thing that I was thinking about, I mean, the ball fields are great, but we raised 5 kids and we were able to do it using a lot of other different area surfaces. But before that comes in also, it would be nice to have a feasibility and how much that sort of thing would be used. Or I know we're not talking about that as much tonight, but one of the reasons why we came here and ended up staying and raising kids was because of the good activities that the kids could do. And another one of them was walking down the Creeper Trail and enjoying their time and everything. And I don't see that happening, at least from the starting of coming into Abingdon and walking down the Creeper Trail, if people aren't coming to walk on the Creeper Trail and bike to see buildings. They're there to walk and enjoy nature and enjoy their time with their families and each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Margaret Gregg? I apologize if I've read your name correctly.
My name is Margaret Gregg. I live at 113 Trailview Drive. It's almost a mistake that I'm doing this. I didn't realize what I was signing. It's often typical of what I do. I'm not a professional planner, not a professional anything, but I came to Abingdon to live my senior years, and I've discovered a cultural community that doesn't exist anywhere else. There's a whole network of cultural creative opportunities. We have Heartwood, we have the Creeper Trail, we have the Barter, we have the Coombe Center, we have the William King, we have the Depot, and we have the Community College, we have the Higher Ed Center. And this proposal is so totally consumer-oriented, and anybody that's going to make money on it, the town will get some more taxes, but the corporate people that are doing the planning that nobody's even heard about until the last 24 hours or less doesn't help perpetuate that whole cultural, intergenerational, new models of living as seniors or anybody. And I really am in awe of what people have been saying, because it reflects a beautiful level of commitment and brilliance in people that have lived here and offered a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I live in a very creative retirement community that, witnesses that same level of commitment. Thank you.
I can't begin this name. Ms. Gregg's neighbor, let me put it that way. Is it Janice or Janine?
I think it's me.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, Jamie.
Okay.
Okay.
111 Trailview Drive.
That's me.
Yes, please come up. And as she's doing that, again, I remind you, I'm not being rude when I do that. Please don't take it that way. There's time in it. We want everyone to have a chance.
Okay, let's see if this is going to work for me. My name is Jamie Tubman. I live at 111 Elder Spirit Court, Abingdon 24210. Mr. Mayor, Chairman of the Planning Commission, and all of the members and all of the citizens who have come here tonight on extremely short notice, because we're so passionate about what seems to be going to be done. Abingdon is a center, a cultural center, as Margaret Gregg just pointed out. That Creeper Trail is an enormous part of that culture, the environmental culture. It will be damaged irreparably by having the noise pollution, the light pollution, traffic pollution so close to the Creeper Trail. People do not come here to look at that sort of thing. We have many, many shopping centers in Abingdon. There are some shopping centers that are half empty. I'm sure that groups that wanted to develop some more merchandise opportunities could take and rehab on some of those locations. But this location that is so close to the Creeper Trail just does not work. The community I live in, which is called Elder Spirit, is a community for seniors, and it is just the other side of the Creeper Trail from this. We didn't buy property and build property and move here to live next to that. And I ask your consideration on that. We have many, many shopping centers, but there's only one Creeper Trail.
Mr. or Mrs. is, I believe it's Jenkins, is it? Charlotte Drive?
I have no comment at this time.
I'm sorry?
I have no comment at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Harold Hill?
I am Winona Hill, and Harold and I have a trailer park on the Green Springs Road. I'm not here to complain. I just want to make a statement that we've been in a dilemma for the last few days about what to do about upgrading the trailer park. We had a tree went through one of the trailers in July in the storm, and to just make a long story short, we found out a few days ago that all this is going on, and we've just been in a dilemma whether to upgrade or leave it like it is or get rid of it or what to do. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. or Ms. Hagee, I believe, Green Spring Road.
Louis Hagee?
Yes.
Pays on that, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Phillips, Tim Phillips.
Only had questions that have been addressed.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Austin.
Thank you all. I want to begin by thanking Food City, which is a vital part of I am Richard Cartwright Austin. I live at 270 Lowland Street. The hill that's going to be cut down, I've enjoyed watching horses graze on that hill from my study window. But anyhow, I want to start by thanking Food City, which is truly a member of this community. And before I moved to Abingdon 4 years ago, well, we've had business in Abingdon, my wife and I, for 30 years. But I was an organic farmer out near Dungannon. And Food City was the first and the most persistent of those who willing to buy and market regional produce, local produce. That's meant a lot. They're good. They've been a good neighbor. They've been an important part of this community in this region. That being said, we've got despite all that this town council has done, there's a Walmart pop-up out on exit 19. If Food City moves from their present location across the highway into this proposed location, and Walmart appears, Kmart's doomed. It's a weak company, Sears Kmart, anyhow. It's one of the two anchors on that shopping center. Where one anchor leaves, the other one's already in trouble. That whole shopping center's doomed. Abingdon has a good deal of retail space which is underutilized, and potential retail space. I think of all the tobacco warehouses that are good locations, marginally used. The shopping center where Kmart and Food City are now, which is probably a larger area than the one being proposed, when it dies, and when Washington Crossing completes its dying, and when other retail spaces and potential retail spaces already well zoned for the purpose lie idle or poorly utilized, Abingdon will become a town with islands of blight within it. most of them retail or potentially retail. I think the Planning Commission should be focusing its attention on ways to provide incentives to revitalize the large quantity of retail zoned real estate we already have and that is not being utilized or is in danger of collapsing. I think that the incentives are twisted. Food City should take over that whole place where it is now, build a Super Whopper store, help revitalize the community that is, and not take away my view and the Creeper Trail people's view. Thank you.
Terry Simon.
Right here. I'll speak later, please.
You want to speak
Yeah.
later? All right. Frank Goodpasture.
Actually, he pretty much just touched on everything I was going to speak about.
All
so
right.
I'll pass.
Thank you, sir. Melanie Mason. She's not here. Barbara Vanderpool? Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm Barbara Vanderpool, resident at 20303 Josh Allen Drive in Abingdon, Virginia. And I had some prepared notes, but in the interest of time and with everything that has been said, I will not repeat again things that have been stated. 20303 Josh Allen Drive, Abingdon. There are just 2 points that I would like to make. As I stated, everything else has already been said. Regarding the traffic impact analysis, it was stated at the beginning of the meeting that a traffic impact analysis would be done. However, my husband picked up today from the town office the zoning staff report, and on the page regarding the transportation section, it states all or part of the traffic analysis may be waived by the Director of Public Works, depending upon the type and size of development, condition of the connection street, or an interpretation of the minimum information given above. The last sentence in this section reads, "It is the opinion of staff that a TIA, that is a traffic impact analysis, is not required for this project." Not required is in bold and underlined. Is there something in writing that supports what was stated at the beginning of this meeting, that in fact a traffic analysis will be done, other than what is in the present report that it is recommended to not be done? The other item that I wanted to point out is that there's been a lot of concern about the Creeper Trail and the environmental impact. I would like to speak also in terms of Green Springs Road potentially being shut off at the one end except for the local traffic for residents who live there. The Creeper Trail, as everyone has stated, is one of the major attractions in Abingdon. By closing off the one end, that allows only one egress to the Creeper Trail, which is from Main Street over a railroad track. So I'm not sure, you're shaking your head no, but I'm not sure that's what I've gathered from the materials. I don't know if there is another plan to allow access another way.
I'm going to interrupt for just a second. The reality of it is this is a hearing that's being held by the Planning Commission, and we're really not supposed to, as council members, interrupt or participate in that. Some of these things they may be able to address now, or we may be able to address when our term comes, but we're pretty well obligated to stand back a moment.
Okay, well that's fine. I mean, I'm just bringing this up. I mean, I know that it's not to be addressed. I'm just bringing it up to bring to the attention what is in the reports, and as other citizens have pointed out, the areas of concern. The last area of concern that I would like to point out is that I'm a parent of 2 teenage boys who love Abingdon. They would love to live here all of their lives. My question, or what I would like to request of you to consider, in addition to the environmental impact of this in regards to the Creeper Trail and all else, is the impact on the future. are more retail jobs, minimum wage, slightly above minimum wage jobs, the best that we can offer our future citizens. Thank you.
Right, those are all of the persons that I have on the sign-up sheet. Is there another? Yes, somebody hand that.
There's actually 2 sign-up sheets, one for planning commission and one for town council. That one is for town council. This one is for planning. I just wanted to put that out. Now, you may have others who wish to speak.
I'm going to get on that. I signed up, but I didn't know if it was for creeper trails.
Right. Well, it's, like I said, there's one for planning commission and one for town council. It's actually
We're interested in all comments, and as was pointed out a moment ago, there are actually 2 public hearings and there are 2 bodies that are meeting tonight, the Planning Commission to make recommendations to the Town Council and the Town Council to make those final decisions. So if there's anyone else that would like to address the Planning Commission, regardless of whether you've signed up or not, we do want to hear you. Okay? Yeah, yes, sir. If you'll just come up, please, to the podium. Remember, we've got 3 minutes. And state your name and your physical address for us, please.
My name is Wayne Miller, and I live at 367 Winterham Drive, Abingdon. And I'm glad there are so many people here tonight that love the Creeper Trail. I wish they'd join our club. The Virginia Creek Trail Club works with the towns of Abingdon, Damascus, and the U.S. Forest Service to maintain the trail surface and to protect the view shed. That's the scenery that people see along the trail. And I rode my bike over to the affected area today that's bordering the green part of that map. And there's a mixed hardwood border there along that trail that screens a lot of the affected area down below there where the development's going to occur if this rezoning is in effect. In a couple places, there's about a 12 to 15 foot embankment that shields the developed area there along that green section. The point I'm trying to make is if we're protecting, if the zoning is approved, and if the ball fields are, the development occurs and the ball fields are built, which we support outdoor recreation for our youth. That's been talked about for a long time. Commercial development of our local businesses, they're going to have to step up their act to compete with this big box store, Walmart, that's coming. I can understand that, but we still have to protect the corridor of the Creeper Trail. So if it's approved, I suggest as a condition of any development that trees be planted, evergreen trees, because these are just mixed hardwoods. They will lose their leaves in the wintertime. So if we had evergreen trees planted and more hardwood trees along there as a buffer for the visual sight line and the buffer the sound, that would be my recommendation if this zoning is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission, I'd just like to take a moment to point out that the lady that did speak about the traffic impact analysis is correct. The way that that read was a typographical error. A traffic impact analysis will be required. So I just want to make that clear.
Thank you. All right, other persons that would like to address the body. Yes, ma'am. Please come on.
My name is Nan Arrington Harmon, and I know many of you. Hello, good to see you.
You state your address.
Yes, 498 Green Spring Road. And anyway, I thank everybody, the commission, the council, citizens, and many of my concerns have been addressed. The Creeper Trail, the view shed, that's a new word for me, the view, which is important and important for Abingdon, and concerns that may be and probably would be considered with an environmental study. Noise pollution, light pollution, also, and I may, if this is getting too specific, drilling and blasting, structural integrity, of homes, buildings, and of course we all have our selfish wants and personal reasons. You know, everybody does. But my home is close, and I have a big limestone chimney and a lot of rock on the home. And I'm going, what's going to happen with that? And of course, water pollution, and to be a little more specific about that, on one of the pages on the environmental, it said watershed not applicable, floodplains. This site does include floodplains, and I don't know where those are. And the property is near or contains streams, and that's true. And I'm streams, and I'm particularly concerned about springs. And a little background, I should have said, my farm borders the meadows on the south side for, I don't know, a quarter of a mile. It's the biggest property that borders it. And you all probably, you know where it is, right? You know where, does everybody know? Hey, Jim. All right. And Jim's been a good neighbor to me to the north. But, and if you haven't been out there, Matthew came the other night and brought some papers to me. I told him how to get there. But, you know, just come on out and see the southern border, you know, where the Creeper Trail we're talking about, the northern border of the land. My whole farm is on the southern border. There is a spring, and I know this because I grew up on the meadows until I was 10, so all this is my stomping ground. This is it's personal to me, and the land and the hills and the beauty of it. But there's a spring, a real healthy spring, near the milk barn at the meadows. I'm sure you all have been to the milk barn, right? Just by the sycamore trees, you know where the spring is. And it flows in and fills the big lake there, the pond, and which in the site plan is going to be a watershed containment area, which of course you have to do because you have a lot of pavement there. You have a lot of water that's going to come off there. Hello, was that time up? And so that spring and that flow of water cannot be stopped. It's going to go into the big pond, and then my pond is downhill from that, and that, you know, the water runs into there, out of which I have horses who, you know, drink the water, cattle and livestock. And so I'm very concerned about that stormwater collection runoff. What if we have a colossal rain and I'm downhill from there, and then I have a stream and it runs through my farm, and all this water from all this project, it looks like to me, and I'm no engineer, but it's going into a 12-inch culvert pipe that goes into the town creek. So I'm concerned about water issues. All right, one more thing. And I know that the historical part of the farm has not been brought up, and you can argue, and I've had it said to me that it's not historical because of the age or the old house burned or whatever. But if I could get a show of hands for those who have in their possession or have read the book In the Saddle with Stuart, the story of Frank Smith Robertson on Jeb Stewart's team. I know Jim has it. You know, if I were queen of the world, I would say if I really highly recommend this book. It's a story of a brutal war, but I've looked through here and found letters to and from the meadows, from, you know, Jeb Stuart, from Robert E. Lee. And I found a passage today that I literally, maybe I'm just too emotional about this, I broke into tears because it was a story by Bessie Nicholas about her great uncle, who was an 8-year-old boy on the farm, working slave on the farm. And when the Yankees came, he hid the silver, and they took their horses. And, you know, I knew Bessie. I knew her sister Nanny, who worked for the Motleys, who owned the meadows. So to doubt this is an historical property is, I'm sorry, that just doesn't fly. But anyway, I don't envy you your jobs, but I hope you'll do the right thing. I love to eat. I love grocery stores. I shop at Food City. But I really think that someplace, you know, some other property could be utilized at a higher and best usage. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, my name is James Russ Close. I use 448 Greenspoon Road. I'm 4 lots down from where you plan to put the entrance. I don't know if y'all are aware or not, but not only the creeper trail, but on the far right of the property is a cemetery. There's at least 5 to 7 graves there. I can remember, like when I was like 11 to stay right, I'd be scared to go over there. My grandmother, Pocahontas Hagee, she actually told me that she went to 2 funerals from the Motley. I don't know if Mr. Brown knows that he bought a family plot, but there actually used to be tombstones or whatever, where they leased it out to hay and leased out horse stuff. I watched it all like 50 years. Eventually, the tombstones got run over by tractors and just gone. But there's actually a family plot to the far right of the property that Mr. Brown owns. Are we going to take and maybe try and contact the Motleys and see about, or are we just going to go up there and start making ball fields and just forget about who's buried there? And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jim Bundy. I'm an architect here in Abingdon. Offices at 321 West Main Street. First off, I want to say I think Mr. Smith and Mr. Brown are great supporters of this community, and I would like to support them in this project if I can, but I don't see how this council, the only thing that seems to have been proven here to me tonight is that this concept drawing doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. Everything, it shows the meadows is going to be torn down. And that's the main reason I'm here, is I don't want to see the meadows, the house, torn down. And the ball fields within 20 yards of the creeper trail, I don't, you know, that can be controlled, I guess, with buffers. But my main concern is that this concept plan shows that the meadows is going to be torn down. And if this concept plan is not right, it seems like you're asking all these people to make a decision, and you're trying to make a decision. And the only thing we know for sure is that the stuff you're deciding on isn't right. It's not what's going to happen. It's not what they're going to do. Are we going to have a traffic study before you make a decision, or are we going to do it afterwards? Or, you know, it just seems like to me that everything is being rushed, and we don't even have a drawing to show what's happening over there. And to me, my recommendation would be to just rezone the whole thing to historic, and then let the people in the town of Abingdon that are doing a great job preserving the history of Abingdon be in charge of it. And they can do a modern. They can do a modern shopping center just as well as the planning commission can. They're not limited to just doing colonial. You know, they can control what's going on in the town of Abingdon there. And then the comprehensive plan also marks this site with an asterisk, designating it for historic preservation. And the only thing you've proven to me tonight is that you're going to tear it down. Or that you don't know what's going to happen to it, one of the two. So, and it also designates, your comprehensive plan designates a 100-foot buffer on the creeper trail. And, you know, these, all these ball fields and parking lots, and they're within 20 yards of the creeper trail, according to this plan. But then if you tell me the plan's not right, then why are we all here trying to decide on this if what we have is not what's going to happen? And that's all.
Good evening. My name is John Allen, and Barbara and I live at 162 Valley View Drive in Abingdon. I'll be very brief because I've had a lot of eloquent speakers that have already made my point a lot better than I can. I just want to add one thing to it. We've been here 6 years. We came here as a retirement community. We love the place. Every morning we wake up saying how blessed we are to be able to live here. We love the Creeper Trail. We love everything about the town. We love that it is a town and not a city. And, you know, I know this is a tourist town. People come here because they like to get away from the city. They come here because it's a small community. They come here because it's not an exit 7. Just look at the Abingdon seal there. Do you see anything commercial there? That's what we're all about. Let's stick with it, people, please.
My name is Tristan Nelson. I live at 251 Barter Drive. I'm a young 25-year-old, unmarried, and without kids. That's a rare commodity in this town. As you can see from all the previous speakers. I moved here 3 years ago because I joined AmeriCorps from Vermont after college, and I moved down here. And after my year term, I chose to stay. There are some great things about this town. It is so close to becoming a place like Boone or Asheville. And that's, for me, that's what attracts young people. I see a lot of young people down there. You want to attract young people, it's not building another shopping center. It's getting places like the Orange Peel, a venue in this town that's going to attract music. You know, we have restaurants and we have the brewery. Those are all great places, but not a real venue. Getting more food options. You know, keeping it quaint. It's already been spoken about the fact that we have plenty of unused, buildings that could be refurbished. I am a huge supporter. I live right across from Food City. I'm a huge supporter of Food City. I do shop at Food City, but it just seems kind of ridiculous to move a grocery store 500 feet and then 100 feet away from another grocery store. The fact that we have 4 grocery store chains in this town is kind of crazy when we have 8,000 people. But just coming from a young person's perspective, and from anyone else's children that's going to grow up here, if you want to attract people, we need industry. We need places like CGI to move here. We need places like that. That's going to create a young population that has good salaries, okay? That's going to be a tax base for the future of this town. That's going to attract you, not the low income jobs, not the Exit 7 Ruby Tuesdays. That's not going to happen. So, thank you.
Ann Terrell, 104 Elder Spirit Court. I have a view of the Creeper Trail from my deck, and the Creeper Trail is 33 miles long. Would seem like enough stuff for everybody. But from my deck, I see who uses that first mile, and the mile marker from first mile is just beyond the 81 overpass. I see people in wheelchairs. I see kids in training bikes with training wheels. I see people trying to walk off a few pounds. I see people trying to recover from knee replacement and hip replacement surgeries. Those, if you're a jogger or a biker or a horseback rider, yeah, you can just go whip down those 33 miles. But for a lot of people, that first mile is what they do. They park, they walk that mile, or maybe only a half mile, and then they walk back. And we have to protect that first mile.
Yes, sir.
How you doing? I'm Adam Matthews, 475 Green Spring Road. Just want to know, and most of us standing outside that lives on this street, I haven't heard one thing about what y'all plan to do with us, going to buy us out, delete all the communities. Second of all, I've got friends, deep family members on the fire department's life saving crew that use that road every single day. And y'all cut that road out, even as a first responder, you got it set on marker 17 and 18. That's a shortcut for them to get to the accident, fire, or whatever it may be. was wondering if y'all have thought about that to save somebody's life, either in that situation or what, as far as anything like that goes. Thank you.
Tom Boyle. I live at 100 Elder Spirit Court. It's in the Elder Spirit complex. I get a chance, like my neighbor, to look out at my back window and see one of the most beautiful views I have ever had in my life. Unlike my friend at 25, I am more like the rest, many of us here at 76, an old man. And I hope that I'll retire here, really retire. I do object to the fact that this is being done back to back. I mean, there's no, to me this was said convenience. It seems hard to believe that something as contentious as this would be held back to back. But somehow that's what's happened, and it's been commented on already. I'd like you to just imagine, I don't know if you want to close your eyes, but just take yourself back on I-81, pulling off on exit 17. Most of us have been on 17 many times and know that the traffic is already pretty bad. So now you finally get off of 17 and you want to go down or maybe into the town. Well, Green Spring Road has now become a major access into a roadbed that is already busy, very busy. Probably needs another traffic light. Not only that, you look to your left and you see, oh, looks like the shopping center is gone. You look to your right, well, there's a shopping center going there too. This is the vision of what we are looking at. If we decide that we want to look downtown, well, we have to look at how much traffic is going to be going into the town. A 2-lane main street, which is already crowded. The charm of the place is going to be overwhelmed because you have 19 with traffic coming in the other direction from Walmart. Let's not kid ourselves. You've got Walmart on one place at 19. Off of 17, you've got another major shopping center. You got 7, and then you got 2 brand new. God only knows what they'll be like when they impact. How many shopping centers do we need? Okay, so then you go and you say, I'm going to go on the Creeper Trail. Well, let's try to find a parking space. That ought to be fun. Then you get on the Creeper Trail, and you look to your right. Instead of seeing this bucolic setting, we're going to be seeing buildings. God only knows how big they're going to be, but they're going to be flat, presumably architecturally sound buildings. What are we doing to this town? I love this town. It's so beautiful. And it's got character. 1778, it says on that thing right there. And we're going to basically turn this into a modern shopping center. Think about that.
Nick Proctor, I live at 11092 Tree Line Drive. I was born in Abingdon, I've lived in Abingdon, but sentimental value of different things doesn't strike well for how we should tend to plan things, or else we wouldn't be in this room right now. You'll notice the age gap of where I and Tristan that was speaking earlier, we're millennials. Millennials aren't supposed to care about what's going on in our communities. News broadcasts, they dedicate the whole Dateline shows. Millennials aren't supposed to care, and they don't care. We're finding in Abingdon, at least, Abingdon and Asheville, and other creative communities that we do care. And as a millennial, the town of Abingdon, on their Visit Abingdon tourism dedicated website on Facebook, there's a thing where you can sponsor your post, which means that you pay money so that more people see what you're talking about. So they made a post saying that the Virginia Creeper Trail is more than a terrific place to go and experience the fall foliage. This was maybe within the last week or so. So to open up, I'll read a couple of the 14 comments. Mind you that there was 576 likes, which gets posted to people's several thousands of friends. that article gets shared. There's 14 direct comments and 100 shares. Now, to be an organization on Facebook, you might have upwards of 5, 10, 15, 20,000, or maybe even 50,000 people with the click of a button sees what you're talking about and sees the importance, in this case, of the Virginia Creeper Trail. So that's 100. I won't bother with the math, but you can think about the magnitude of who cares, represented in a very limited fashion the people in this room today, of who cares about the Creeper Trail and the experience that it provides. When I graduated Abingdon High School, I went to Virginia Tech and I studied landscape architecture. And I'll take a wild stab that very few in this room know what landscape architecture is beyond planting residential gardens. Because that, as doctors and practitioners and lawyers for that matter, is a very, very small section of the field. And while I was at Virginia Tech, I decided to take a broader approach and study cultural landscapes on a regional basis, which actually brought me back to Abingdon to work in a 19-county area that is now called Southwest Virginia. And while I was at Virginia Tech, there's Professor Donna Gannay. He's about yay tall, very soft-spoken, but is full of very wise words. And what she said at the end of my, I'm going to steal some of my mom's 3 minutes. And what she said at the very end of one of the graduate courses I was taking is that if you leave Virginia Tech and you don't learn anything else, as a young person entering your new professional career, is that you have an obligation to be civically engaged. So, as Tristan and the rest of us are here, and many others out in the hallway, we are doing that just now. And so when I started my position, which for the record, this is my personal statement here, not to reflect on behalf of my employer or any others, is that I was approached by someone that might be fairly central in this spread of the council bench that said, without knowing anything about what I was doing, but only knowing that I was a landscape architect by training, took the moment to say, if you do anything else in the town of Abingdon or in Southwest Virginia, you need to protect the trees. Well, as I did at Virginia Tech, let's take that one step out. Maybe it wasn't a comment about trees, but maybe it was a comment about green space. We need to preserve green space. Or one step above that is we need to think creatively about how we develop our communities and how we critically look at what we have, and we don't let the powers that be simply mow it over. And that's dwelled quite a bit. So I've spent my career doing, which is very short, 2.5 years, doing community development for an organization that focused with 3 organizations leveraging our creative assets in Southwest Virginia. The outdoors is one of those. The Creeper Trail is certainly one of those. And you could very easily put the Virginia Creeper Trail on the same scale as the Appalachian Trail and the Blue Ridge Parkway, the New River Trail State Park, and the Clinch River. All of those are very linear outdoor recreation assets. But I would beg to differ that nobody goes there to do the activity that they provide, strictly for that activity. You can hike anywhere in the nation, you can drive anywhere in the nation, and you can float anywhere in the nation, but people flock to Southwest Virginia, to the Appalachian Trail, to the Blue Ridge Parkway, and to our waterways for the experience that they have while on that asset. The Creeper Trail is no different. They're there for the views, they're there for the foliage, they're there for the recreation, they're there for the memories. The Virginia Creeper Trail this year was inducted into the Rails of Trails Hall of Fame, a recognition not to be going unrecognized. But what the Creeper Trail does not have, as per the Appalachian Trail, Blue Ridge Parkway, or our state park system, is that they do not have the federal government helping out with the view sheds and the management of that. We as a town and as a body of citizens now have that obligation. I'm not against development.
like to ask you if you'll approve it.
Certainly.
Thank you.
But the proposed strategy is not creative, is not innovative, and the only local aspect that could be derived from this is that Food City is one of the tenants, because it's a small part of this. The shopping center is an old and dated model, and we need to start investing in our creative, young creative culture that's here in Abingdon. And as a hermit crab exits its shell, that shell is beautiful and adds to the environment that it's in. An old abandoned building in a perfectly fine location with enough customer base where Food City is right now, that's not enough to spur all this. Thank you.
Yes, sir. For those of you that are on the outside, there is some available seating area if you'd like to come in. There's some over on this side. There's also some right here. Please feel free to come in. Yes, sir.
All right, my name is Greg Mead. I live at 548 Cherry Hill Drive. I'd like to say moved to Abingdon in 2007, and a good friend of mine got me involved in the Virginia Creeper Trail Club before I even managed to become a resident of the town. I joined the club as a director and been involved in trail activities ever since then. And Nick stole my thunder a little bit. Nobody had mentioned the fact that Creeper Trail was in the Hall of Fame, Rail Trail Hall of Fame, until he just mentioned it. But I was gonna. It's probably worth repeating. There's only 29 in the whole U.S. that are in the Rail Trail Hall of Fame, and something that we should think about. I was actually at the ceremony, and I know a lot of you all were also there. About a quarter mile from where this proposed development would take place. Under the tent there, and we all talked about how great the Creeper Trail was, and congratulated ourselves about the perseverance we had to make it happen, and it was all well deserved, and we should just keep that in mind. A couple things that are worth repeating that we've already heard tonight. It dawns on me that the ballparks, while needed, got a son that plays soccer, and we travel all over the town and county trying to find space. It dawns on me that it's been made very clear that there's no guarantee that those would ever actually be built. And even if they would be built, I'm not sure if that's the best place for them. It's also been mentioned, but I'll invite everybody to think about this Friday afternoon about 3 at exit 17. The only place in town where traffic is kind of bad. This certainly is not going to do anything but excavate that. I'm not really sure that we need more hotels. I would be curious about the occupancy rate of our current hotels, and that kind of begs to the point of, economically, is this economically needed? And I'd like to just see more information, which really brings me to my last and my number one concern, is the fact that this information really hasn't been disseminated in a very timely manner to the public. And I would urge the council to not make a decision tonight and schedule additional public hearings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissa McConnell. I didn't anticipate to speak tonight, but I own a business at 534 County Street in the Magic Mart Shopping Center in Washington Crossings. And I have to say, as a business owner, a small business owner in Abingdon, I've dedicated my life savings to a small business that may be terminated from, a development. And I understand that we have to move on. Things have to prosper, but it just seems like there should be another way that we wouldn't have to destroy small businesses and the people here in the town to be able to make that happen. That's all I can say. I am Dr. Allison Whitman of 18325 Macedonia Road, Abingdon, Virginia. We actually come here for a couple of reasons. Actually, other people are going to speak. Not only do we have this possible plan coming for the Creeper Trail, and I was raised here. I'm 40 years old and I've spent most of my life here, and I came back to practice medicine here as a family practitioner. Primary care was needed. I came back to serve my community, and as you can see, this is a community. This has been sprung up quickly, as well as another issue I'm going to bring that I don't know if most of the community realizes, but AEP also wants to destroy another section of the Creeper Trail, and there's several of us here to oppose that. This is ours as a community. It's our treasure. I bring my friends from all over to come down here. I take kids for rides on horseback. You know, I get exercise walking in. The kids are riding horses and being outside and being healthy, and mentally it's great for you. And physically, I tell people to get on that Creeper Trail as a physician all the time, especially this, first 10 miles of it are really easy for people to walk. Especially I'll make sure their hearts are okay, and I said, go ahead. You're fine to walk this section of the trail. Go slowly. There are lots of people around. It's a safe place to walk and enjoy mentally. You can just clear your mind, especially what Mr. Proctor said stands for me. I have a stressful job, and I get out there and I ride my horse. I bike on it, I walk on it, and it's just a valuable resource, and we can't destroy it. The part about AEP is they kind of sprung this on us quickly. They did not send me a letter, they didn't call me, they didn't stop by to say, hey, I'm about to destroy your property, and I'm going to destroy a section, a mile of the Creeper Trail and parallel it with 100-foot lines, 100-foot metal tall towers with lines that will parallel the trail and destroy my farm as well as my neighbor's farms down Slippery Lane, especially Mr. Case, who has the most beautiful 300 acres we all enjoy in the Creeper Trail. So as a town, you guys need to help your community. I have hundreds of signatures. I have 200 online already. I have 300 on paper. And people in this town do not want that Creeper Trail messed up. I promise, Mr. Smith, I despise Walmart. Nobody can hate Walmart more than I do. And I was raised in a community that kept Walmart out of exit 14. I was very proud of our community. I thought we were one of the I'm not getting emotional, but this is my hometown. We were one of the few towns that kept them out. And I work at Walmart, so I would have that nightmare across the street from me anywhere. And I think you'll have a lot of community support if you listen to the community and protect that trail. If you're going to do something, I'm sorry, I don't care how nice you make it look. Shopping is an awful thing to have to do as a working woman. You can make it the Taj Mahal. We hate going to the grocery store. But we have to do it. But our community likes Spruce City. We appreciate what you do for the community, but you really have to protect that Creeper Trail, and we have to protect it from AEP as well. And so we're asking for the community support. I went all through town. I walked high heels on our cobblestone sidewalks and got signatures and made people wear because they sprung this up on us. And they told us, we have a couple more weeks and we'll pick a route and decide if we're going to destroy your side of the valley and the Creeper Trail. And as a community, we need to fight. This is our trail, and we want it protected, and people need to hear that. Thanks.
Dr. Whitman, I did not get the numbers of your address, please. I'm sorry.
It's 18325 Macedonia Road.
Thank you. Can I give you the...
My name's Greg Case. I live at 18459 Case Cove Drive, Abingdon. You all got a quick notice. We got a quick notice too. AEP, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is an action you've taken up. This involves the section of the Creeper Trail that is at the Watauga Valley.
It doesn't involve this public hearing.
Can I speak to the town council?
The
Okay.
town council will have a comment time later, is what she's saying.
Tonight?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Very good.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to address the planning commission on the public hearing concerning the proposed rezone? Anyone else? All right, if not, I will declare the public hearing for the proposed rezoning to be closed at this time. Members of the Planning Commission, do you have questions based upon the comments that have been made tonight, the staff, or comments that you would like to make in regards to that?
Mr. Chairman, if we have questions that involve maybe staff.
Yes.
Okay.
Please feel free.
Mr. Chairman, might I make inquiry? Some of the folks here who are have made applications have indicated they would like to readdress the commission.
Okay.
Briefly.
Okay. Sure, absolutely. Let's reopen the public comment portion of the meeting for that.
Just a short rebuttal and clarification. We can't really argue with emotion, but facts really should speak for themselves. I'm sorry, my name is Jim Brown. I'm president of SEMA Corporation. Have no ownership in it, but it does belong to my family members.
Your address, please.
1051 Clark Street, Abingdon, Virginia, commonly known as Paramount Farm. And of course I have Paramount Manufacturing on Westinghouse Road, employ about 300 people, have a payroll exceeding $10 million a year. So we have a lot of economic impact on this area. And I am a professional engineer by past career, very familiar with the topography and layout and design of commercial projects. One issue brought up was traffic studies and future road plan on that. Probably most of those people have not had a chance to really look at it in detail. But the total road plan, I started working with the Virginia Department of Transportation about 15 years ago relative to this property. Been several evolutions of design since that time. And I think as a part of VDOT records, if one looked at it, this road plan is what's been proposed by Virginia DOT for at least 10 to 12 years. Each time it's been kicked down the road because of lack of money. And we all know about the traffic congestion in exit 17. You can hardly get off of it, and you can hardly get on it. So one of the issues we're closing Green Springs Road. Green Springs Road is not being closed. It's being terminated into a cul-de-sac on the lower level. But if you were coming out of the town of Abingdon, going out to ultimately end up on 75 and out to exit 17, the roadway is proposed to go up behind the existing homes on the left, intercept a grade level road practically over to the signal light that goes up to town center. So there was still, from the rescue squad comment, actually traffic flow is significantly improved both from access coming out of town, getting out to exit 17, as well as if you're getting off at 17 and you happen to be wanting to go to the Creeper Trail. If you were going out the main access now to traffic to exit 17 where the traffic light is to go up into town center, that simply will become a four-way interchange instead of a three-way interchange. You'd immediately make a left, go across Green Springs Road into this property, then you would see a left-hand turn coming back down into Green Springs Road, come back around to the Creeper Trail. You also have an intersection proposed to go right-handed to go down into where the old, I think, Magic Mart ABC building. So any businesses down there are going to have improved access. People coming out of that existing shopping center or this proposed shopping center would immediately be able to merge into that traffic with signal lights. And then hopefully, ultimately, VDOT does improve that whole interchange. And one does have to look ahead long term. When the Hampton Inn was built over there, I called VDOT and I said, I've looked at your plans and your exit lane's supposed to go right through the Hampton Inn. Why don't we buy that piece of property right now? They said, well, we can't buy right away until we have projects funded. So now we got a Hampton Inn in the middle of what was originally, going back about 12, 15 years ago, would have been the exit. A lot of emotion about the creeper trail. You would think this is being built on top of the creeper trail. None of the commercial rezoning development even joins the creeper trail. The closest building in this development, according to our measurements, at least 2 football fields away from that proposed, still subject to ultimate approval for the specific site for that, but the closest motel site, about 2 football fields from the creeper trail. I have looked at from, as proposed by the developer, this is probably the 3rd or 4th generation of an idea about how you do this to be the most responsive to community impact, environmental impact, traffic impact, and frankly, I can't imagine anything better other than, which is why I say you can't argue with emotions, is, yeah, I'd love to look at that piece of property forever myself, green grass. Well, I pay taxes on all that green grass. And the horses up on that knoll belongs to my neighbor, Nan Arrington, of which for the last several years I've let her use that free of charge. There will be development around here. The question is, how is it managed? And does it really ultimately make other improvements, bring other improvements to it? There was a big demand for ball fields, recreational area. I really can't imagine anything more appropriate for joining the creeper trail than for recreational activities for youth. There's a large parking lot up there. So parking was mentioned down there where the locomotive is. I would assume if those ball fields become a reality, the parking area up next to the soccer fields would be a very good access for parking to access the creeper trail. So purely from an engineering standpoint, not arguing with the emotions, I cannot quite visualize any better plan that anyone could have put together for the ultimate use of that property, preserving potentially at least half of it for public use and for our youth. And we talked about crime and all those kind of things. What better activities could they have than being able to ride their bicycle and walk on the creeper trail and play soccer and softball and baseball in an easily accessible, relatively protected area versus some other alternative location. And with all due respect to Mr. Levine, who spoke earlier, when you're at the bridge going on the creeper trail and for the first probably close to a half a mile of that, the immediate property on the right is Buck Hilton's home place, which is a rustic wood. You can't even see this development from the first almost half a mile of the creeper trail. In addition to that, for those who've ever been up to the meadows, the old driveway that goes up and only accesses Buck Hilton's premises on the left and then goes to the meadows, that's a steep hillside, heavily wooded. By the time they take the top of this hill off, preserve some trees on that hillside and have a little bit of planting, questionable as to whether you'd even see any of the buildings on top of this property. So the impact on the creeper trail visually, aesthetically, and for impact on traffic, to me, almost all of it is significant improvements for future utilization of the creeper trail, unless someone walking on the creeper trail is offended by looking out over grass fields of soccer fields and softball and baseball fields. Thank you very much.
Steve Smith, I live at 19042 Lake Road, Abingdon, Virginia. And I won't take much time, and I would agree with Mr. Brown. I think Mr. Brown summed up a lot of the things that we want to do with the development company and ultimately for Food City. I've lived here in Abingdon since 1979. I've been a Southwest Virginian all my life, so this truly is home to me. And we develop supermarkets and shopping centers all over now 4 states. And we've learned a lot over the years. We've learned how to hopefully get along in neighborhoods. We've learned how to do things that are going to be appealing to people in a community. We made our corporate headquarters here just a few years ago and made a big decision to stay here for my lifetime and hopefully for maybe the rest of my family's lifetime. And when we redeveloped the hospital, we worked with the Planning Commission, we worked with City Council, we worked diligently to put something that the people of Abington could be proud of, that would not be obtrusive to a residential area. And hopefully we accomplish that, because this is home for me. I, see a lot of people in the stores or church with folks that have been in this room and been on the other side, and I appreciate their opinions and respect their opinions. I think Mr. Brown points out that it is his property, and he has the right to try and take care of that property. And I think we have a viable solution here to work with the town and to put a development in that we can be proud of. And it's not going to be your conventional development. It's going to be one that is a little bit different. And quite frankly, for those folks that say we should stay where we are, we've tried that for about 3 or 4 years. And we have an absentee landlord there that doesn't care about his center and doesn't care about anything that happens in Abington. And I can tell you, you won't have an absentee landlord here. You'll have somebody that cares about the center and somebody that cares about Abington. And that's why I think we'd be the right people to be able to develop that and do what needs to be done if there's going to be a development there. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? If not, I'll once again call the public hearing on the proposed rezoning public comment portion closed. And I once again ask the members of the Planning Commission for their thoughts, their comments. If you have questions of staff, they are here and they can answer those questions. Mr. Chairman, I have a question to ask.
I have a question to ask. I think Mr. Worley, Kevin Costello. Mr. Costello, could you refresh me? I know that we did a study, Abingdon considered building a convention center here, and we did a study, and we said the convention center right now wouldn't be timely, would draw people away from downtown. But what did they say about the hotels and percentages and things like that of the hotels?
I'm Kevin Costello. I'm the Director of Economic Development and Tourism for the town. The question is about our lodging inventory. Right now we have about 600 hotel rooms, about 68 bed and breakfast rooms. We're about to get another 100 hotel rooms or so when the Fairfield moves in. And right now our occupancy levels on an annual basis are in the high 50 range. We do have seasonal lows, which are pretty typical for this area. In January, February, we're down in the 20s, 30s range, but that's pretty typical. In addition to new hotel rooms would require just some things that we would have to do in terms of tourism as marketing a destination. I think new hotels, and in particular in this, where we're talking about this development, if we're adding a sports complex, then we're also adding to our destination in terms of what we can attract more visitors to Abingdon. Not just leisure travelers, but now we're talking about teams and bringing those people in. So we would have to make some adjustments in our advertising realm, but I don't think that a new addition to hotel rooms is too complicated of a matter.
I know that if I remember right, Destination Strategies did that.
We worked for the conference center feasibility study with Destination Strategies, yes.
And I guess I kind of remember when they did their presentation that they talked about that in that 50 range, other hotels started looking to come here. Did that trigger? That would trigger them because that was a high percent.
I think you could just look at Fairfield making the decision to build the new property here in town as an example of how our occupancy levels have achieved that particular range and have inspired somebody to develop the property. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The other question I would have probably would go to Matthew Johnson. And Jim Bundy talked about something that's dear to my heart too, and that is preservation. And he said that he thought the house would be torn down. Do we have anything about whether the house will be saved, torn down, what the plans are, or tell me what's been proposed?
We do not. The matter before the board this evening, or before both boards, is simply the rezoning in the special use permit. That's on another piece of property, the second phase, if you will.
A house is not located on the property that's proposed to be rezoned tonight.
That is correct.
Does anyone else can speak about that?
All right, other questions from the planning commission? Comments?
I have a question directed to John Dew regarding traffic. I'm assuming that traffic will increase with this development to some degree, not drastically maybe, but to some degree.
Yeah, I would say that's an accurate statement. I mean, anytime you have a development, certainly one of this size, that there's going to be traffic generated by it, and that will be estimated in the traffic impact analysis.
Okay. Green Springs right now is classified as a local road.
Yes.
If there was a slight increase in traffic, would it have to be upgraded to a collector or?
That is something that also would be identified and make recommendations in the impact analysis. The relocation that's shown on this concept plan, and again, this is a concept relocation, but that does upgrade the section of Green Spring Road, the realigned section, from pretty much the north end of the development back to Cumming Street at the signalized intersection at Cook Street. So it is an upgrade of that section. Again, the proposal, making the assumption that there will be additional traffic on there and that it upgrades the level of service or the ability of that road to carry that traffic. The impact analysis would also take a look at the other section, the existing section of Green Spring Road from the north end of the development, like say back to Main Street, and also would make recommendations if any improvements were needed on that section as well.
Would that cause any impact to the residents along that road as far as width or?
Potentially, it would be something that would be looked at again in the impact analysis and analyze the existing right-of-way, whether there's room to make those improvements.
With the upcoming road, with the plan, with the roads planned as they are on this plan, how would runoff be handled specifically for the houses that abut where this new road would be?
Any kind of design would have to go through the same process as any development or anything over 10,000 square feet. They'd have to comply with state regulations on stormwater management. So that would be part of the design, the full design for a development or a road realignment like this.
That's all the questions I have for John.
Do you have any other questions or comments?
I would also like to ask questions to, I guess, who would be a representative for the developer or the developer.
Stephen Spangler, again, Representative Manhart.
Obviously, the citizens have come out tonight to speak about issues that they feel are important, so I tried to listen and pick up on some of those. Will the residents in the surrounding area, would they be affected by glare or loss of night sky with the lighting that would be on these sites?
I think Matthew touched on that briefly. We worked through additional guidelines above and beyond the entrance corridor. One including the lighting limitation. We limit it to anything above horizontal plane, everything shining down. We're using a lot of LED lights. I can't speak directly to our operations, but we're starting to use those lights that do not emit as much light as previous specifications.
What about how with will the nearby homes in sensitive areas be affected by noise of any sort, or?
I think with any development, you can expect some noise. Obviously, just traffic question was an obvious answer. We are willing to work with Matthew and his staff, the town, to develop proper buffers, proper aspects in place with the development.
And then lastly, how will this affect the value of the nearby homes and land?
In my opinion, it will increase the value of the nearby homes and land, to be quite honest with you. And then to reiterate the question that Mr. Humphrey's asked, about the house. The house is obviously not a portion of this rezoning. It's going to be transferred with the additional tract if we were to come to an agreement through the public-private partnership with the town. And that is still up to
Could you please speak up for that?
the town. The house is not part of this rezoning tract. It will remain with the tract that potentially will be transferred to the town. I understand that this conceptual plan does not show the house on it. Again, it's conceptual. We theoretically will not control how the second tract will be developed, the design of the ball field, and how that house may or may not be incorporated as part of that tract.
I also want to I guess there was an attempt to work with the existing building that you're in as far as trying to retrofit that or upgrade it to your needs.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and those.
It's to Steve's point, there is an absentee landlord, somewhat difficult to deal with. But also, the current store is 40,000 square feet. We believe that this community deserves a flagship location. Right now, our flagship locations are 60,000 square feet plus, and it will provide all of the new technologies and components in place that this area deserves. But to that point, I did hear a lot of questions about empty boxes and whatnot. It is our plan to repurpose that box, and we've been very successful in repurposing other vacated Food City locations in other communities. And it behooves us to do that from various aspects, but it is definitely our intent to have that not sit vacant.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions while we sit over? Yes,
Address, which is a couple of issues that were brought up tonight. One of that, could you speak a little bit about the landscaping and the request that they had for some additional evergreens being planted?
Again, we're not at that particular juncture at this time. One of the conditions in the special use permit, which is the second public hearing, which we haven't quite gotten to, would be that they would come back before the planning commission in the future to talk about the design of the site. That would be the appropriate time to address the site concerns.
And one other question which concerns the possible burial plot. I'm not sure which.
That's the first that we've heard about that. Of course, it would probably be identified with the archaeological study that I believe that they've already engaged a firm to look at. That is news to me, at least.
Well, what's that under Virginia law?
We would, of course, follow Virginia law on that.
Mr. Johnson, while you're there, I have a question. Why, and I hear a lot of concerns, certainly well taken, regarding the Creeper Trail itself, the house, the ball fields, and whether those are going to be built. Again, I understand that the ball fields and the house are not on the track that we're giving consideration to. Why are we dividing it in the fashion? Why is it being divided? Why are we only talking about one section of it tonight and not the overall project, which includes things that I think are more important to the town's citizens?
Absolutely. Quite frankly, the rezoning portion, which is the public hearing that we're here for this evening, only applies to a small section of this. It applies to about 32 or 3 acres. So at this particular juncture, if that doesn't happen, the other portion doesn't happen either. So it would be premature for us to consider what I'm going to term phase 2 without, until we get through the first portion, which is the rezoning.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
All right, members of the Planning Commission, have any additional questions or comments you'd like to make at this time? Please.
Given my age and years and experience. I've happened to been to a lot of public hearings and seen a lot of proposals for development. And the thing that strikes me is that, two things really. One is that I think this is a high-quality development. I was really glad to see the effort that's been put into it. The second thing is that, for protection of the Creeper Trail, I can't think of a better transition than the recreation area for long-term protection of the Creeper Trail. In looking at all the information that's been provided to us, I was also particularly interested in the minimal impacts that I see on the Creeper Trail, and I think an excellent job was done to mitigate any impacts. And so I'd just like to mention that I was particularly impressed by that, and given the fact that development will come and development could be on this entire parcel.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to state for the folks here that the town of Abingdon, since I've been the town manager of the town of Abingdon, and long before that, probably even 8-10 years before that, has long been looking for a site to develop a sports complex. And several of the corporations that are located here in town have approached me over the years, Mr. Smith being one of them, that there was a strong need for ball fields. The town of Abingdon has been looking ever since I've been town manager, and most of these folks have been on the town council for ball fields. We were in fact looking at this property before it turned into this proposed development, and we were having discussions with Mr. Brown about the project. So the town has a very strong interest. The details have not yet been resolved in terms of that particular remaining 40-acre tract. But it is my hope and my intent that if this project moves forward, that the town will be able to enter into a public-private partnership to provide a state-of-the-art facility that will have limited impact to the Creeper Trail. We're prepared to go overboard with whatever we have to do to protect the view shed and any lighting and noise and traffic flows. I think all the staff have been very transparent in what they've said here tonight. There is no hidden agenda on behalf of the town of Abingdon in terms of what we've been looking at with regard to this project. But I do think that everybody needs to know that we have been looking for a ball field piece for many, many years.
All right. Any other comments? Chair will be pleased to entertain any motions that might be offered concerning the proposed rezoning and a recommendation to be made to the town council.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend the rezoning.
Motion has been made to recommend the rezoning to the town council. Is there a second to that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Additional discussion? If not, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Costello? Ms. Reeves? Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Mr. Schuman has recused and abstaining. Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye. All right,
Ayes,
motion
carried.
is carried to make that recommendation to the Abingdon Town Council. At this time, I would like to begin the public hearing for the special use permit. The special use permit is pursuant to section 18-9, Historic District's Entrance Corridor Overlay District, section 18-9-4, the zoning ordinance, article 3, the FOS agricultural, forestry, and open space district. Special uses regarding the Cement Corporation and the request made for 440 Green Spring Road in Abingdon, Virginia. Tax map number 021-1-5, tax map Number 021-1-58 in apportionment tax map. Number 105-A-39 consisting of approximately 33.189 acres more or less. Mr. Johnson, would you give us an overview of the request, please?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in the interest of time, I have actually beat that horse. And if you'd like me to, I could reiterate the conditions, but I believe that that has been covered. If you have specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those at this time.
I believe you read those into the record earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Johnson? All right. If not, I will open the public hearing for the special use permit. Is there anyone that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding the special use permit which has been requested? Yes, sir. Please come up. Once again, if you'd be kind enough to state your name and your address, please.
Yes, hi. Joe Levine, 350 Green Spring Road. Looking through the request, I had some questions that I would like to at least bring forward and maybe concerns. One of them has to do with the building facades, where it talks about not being detectable from the street. Does that include the back wall and side walls that would be visible from the creeper trail? The minimum 50% first floor, which is the second paragraph on page 2. Same question. Does it include the parts that are visible from the neighbors and from the, especially thinking of the Blackport bed and breakfast, should be visible. Question on the service loading and equipment storage. At the end of the first paragraph, it says that it all shall be screened so as to minimize visible from any public right-of-way. Would also be screened to minimize visibility from the creeper trail and from local businesses. Signage. Question is, will signs be visible from the creeper trail? Lighting. Will lighting be visible? I think that's been addressed, and as I understand, the low LED lights is what I heard. It should not. And then the other question is on page 3, the property described as the Meadows, and provided by said Planning Commission, Town of Abingdon. By what date? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else care to address the Planning Commission regarding the special use permit? Anyone else? All right, if not, I'll declare the public hearing regarding the special use permit to be closed. Mr. Johnson, could you answer some of the questions that Mr. Levine just posed, please?
Sure. The way special use permits work, and I'll give you that, and it would be at the discretion of council ultimately, and the recommendation could come from Planning Commission with some additional language, if you would, if it was in your interest. The way this works is that they don't have to be voluntary. They don't have to be voluntary on behalf of the developers. Developers try to give you these conditions to try to address some of what they have heard as concerns, what they feel like might be concerns. So they've tried to do their due diligence in that. If you so desire, you could alter that language to include, if I may, I think it just sounds like you want to add creeper trail visibility issues to most of those conditions. That would be at your discretion and ultimately would be at council's decision. Does that answer your question?
I think that it does. Signage and all of the other aspects of it you mentioned, you could add visibility from the creeper trail.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, while Mr. Johnson's there, Mr. Johnson, there is well beyond this lengthy process of going through. And one of those processes is, of course, site plan approval. And that would come before the Planning Commission at a later date. Is that my understanding? And we would be able to address these things at that.
That is absolutely correct. Item number 8 on the condition number 8, certificate of appropriateness is required for all of the developable property within the physical limits of the meadows as described above. Would be required to conform to general standards listed above. In addition, each parcel and potential out parcel is required to appear before the planning commission to obtain a certificate of appropriateness, which that would be the proper time to consider items such as landscaping, signage, visibility, design, color, etc.
Thank you. Any other
Sure.
questions, Mr. Johnson?
Thank you.
All right. Thoughts or comments from the planning commission? Chair would entertain any motions regarding the special use permit. All right, so motion made that the recommendation be made to the town council to approve and grant the special use permit. Is there a second? Thank you, sir. Any additional discussion? Motion has been made and seconded. If not, we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Costello? Mr. Reeves? Dr. Berger's absent. Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Mr. Schuman? Mr. Kelly? Mr. Humphries?
Motion is carried to recommend to the town council approval of the special use permit. Is there anything additional to come before the planning commission tonight at this special meeting? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Planning Commission, and to the public who has been here so far and followed this with great enthusiasm and given us a lot to think about. We are going to have to go through a similar exercise as a council based upon the recommendations that have been made to us from by the Planning Commission. I am going to propose that we have officially a 5-minute recess. I know that it will end up taking 10. But I'm going to declare us in recess, and then we'll look forward to seeing everybody back here in just a little bit. Thank you.